Hello and welcome back to Let the Stone Speak. I'm Brent Nachtigall, your host. It's with great pleasure that I offer you an exclusive interview on today's program with Dr. Daniel Weinstob. He is an epigrapher that has recently reanalyzed what's been known as the Jerusalem Pithos inscription. This is the oldest alphabetical inscription that has ever been unearthed in an archaeological excavation here in Jerusalem, unearthed in 2012. There's been numerous readings of this important inscription over the past decade now, and as of April 3rd, so just earlier, a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Weinstob proposed a new reading, a new dramatic reading that does, for the first time, connect Jerusalem from 3,000 years ago to the kingdom of Sheba, all the way down in the southern Arabian Peninsula. So for today's program, we're going to play for you an interview I did yesterday with Dr. Weinstob. But before we do that, I want to take you back 10 years to the discovery of this inscription in the field. This is a video that we created back in 2013 with Dr. Eilat Mazar at the time of the discovery. Of course, Dr. Mazar is no longer with us. She died back in 2021. Sadly, and she was one of our great mentors archaeologically, worked extremely close with her and continuing a lot of her excavation areas as we speak. So I thought it was fitting that we would go back to Dr. Mazar first, talking about the discovery of the Pithos inscription, and then we'll cut away to the interview I did yesterday with Dr. Weinstob, talking about his dramatic new reading of this special inscription from 3,000 years ago. Enjoy.
Last year, towards the end of the excavation season, we found a pile of what seems to be large vessels, large containers that we call pitoi, the plural of pitas, that were crushed and not crushed, they were broken in situ in a crack in the bedrock in area A. And we saw that maybe it's not only one vessel but two. And then during the restoration, it turned out that in this relatively small pile, there are 7 such pitoi. So it means that they were never complete at that spot. The type of the vessels are the 10th century type. And on one of the pitoi, on the very near the rim, there was an inscription. An inscription, you can see the inscription, that was incised before the fire. That means that the inscription and the vessel goes together. It's not a later additional to the vessel itself. And if we have a 10th century vessel and a 10th century context, and that it is, so that we are having here a 10th century inscription. It's like 250 years earlier than the earliest Hebrew inscription ever found today in Jerusalem, the Chazakah Tanal. And I'm very thrilled about this opportunity to open this chapter in the Jerusalem history, to find out and study more and get to understand how complicated, not that simple, was the life of the people in Jerusalem during the 10th century, how to adapt the previous culture, how to adjust it and use it in a very, very wise way as King David did.
Dr. Weinstob, thanks very much for coming on to Let the Stone Speak. It's a privilege to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you're going to discuss this brand new reading of the Pithos inscription, a very important inscription that came from Jerusalem, unearthed in 2012. And there have been almost a dozen, perhaps, different readings of this inscription.
Yes.
And here we are in 2023, and you've come forward with a new one. Mm-hmm. What was it that motivated you to go back and look at this inscription once again?
2 things. The first one, I think everyone, we were unhappy because all the interpretations of the inscription did not offer a coherent text, a coherent reading of the text. Mm-hmm. There were a lot, very problem. There are paleographic problems linguistic problems. The paleographic problems, there were especially with two letters.
Mm-hmm.
One of the letters that all of them interpret as a het, as a Canaan het.
Mm-hmm.
The Canaan het normally has 3 horizontal strokes.
Right.
This letter has only 2. This
Okay.
is one problem. The second and the biggest problem is the last letter. The last letter has 2 strokes,
Mm-hmm.
up, and a tail aside.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Canaanite letter that fit this letter.
Mm-hmm.
There is no. And on the contrary, on the opposite, in the ancient Sud-Arabic script, there is a letter, the letter het
Mm-hmm.
of the ancient Sud-Arabic script that fit exactly this letter, and this letter is has the function as the cipher 5.
Okay.
So we have a text and the cipher 5.
Okay.
And the text, if we interpret it as a Sabaian text, is the, like in English, th in the word,
right.
in this,
Mm-hmm.
and n, Ladan. And Ladan is a very known word
Mm-hmm.
that means Ladanum.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 5 measures of Ladanum.
So this entire script, and we have the actual inscription with us here. Very important piece of
here.
ancient writing, the most ancient alphabetical script ever found in Jerusalem, which is another element to this. And so everyone was thinking it was Proto-Canaanite, or most people were thinking it was Proto-Canaanite, but everyone had problems with it. And
Everyone.
so you decided, well, let's think outside the box a little bit. And did you were the one that kind of thought it might be South Arabian, or was there somebody else that helped you with the script to discern that?
No, nobody helped me.
Okay, yeah, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Maybe you can kind of point to the letters that you were discussing to show us what is how you read the script with the letters that
Yes.
are there.
Yes. Do you see here those small strokes?
Yes,
Yes. And here the tail?
yes.
Yes. Okay. This letter, as I said, don't fit any Canaan letters,
Mm-hmm.
and fit exactly the het in the South Arabian.
Okay.
And this is the letter that everyone interpreted it as a het, a
Okay.
Canaan het. But as you can see, it has only two
strokes
horizontal
and not
strokes,
not the
and
three.
not 3.
Okay.
And the old South Arabian letter the
Mm-hmm.
has exactly 2,
Right.
like this.
So if we can break down the text itself, you have 2 letters at the beginning of the inscription that you can possibly see, and then 3.
Yes, and they, la, the, n, and 5.
Okay, so Ladanun.
Ladanum,
Ladanum.
5.
Okay.
So what 5? The pitos,
Yeah. The vessel that this was.
the pitos, we know that it has an average of 110 liters.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
We also know that the most used measures of volume in biblical times in Hebrew is the ephah.
Yeah.
So the ephah, the average of the ephah is 22 liters.
Okay.
So
That's absolutely perfect. So you're saying this
It's perfect.
The chet at the end is
yes, the five ephahs is the volume of the pitos.
which is an amazing thing. I don't think many
It's
people
amazing.
have focused on that when they've been writing about it, that you do have this the five element there, 5 ephahs, matches the volume of the vessel that would have that this would have made up. So
Yes.
this is a large vessel then, if it's going to be
Yes.
110 liters.
Yes.
Absolutely huge.
Yes.
So
There were seven vessels. Only one has an inscription.
okay, so this is one part of it. Is your new reading of the inscription? It's
Yes.
not It's not Canaanite. It's South Arabian script, ancient South Arabian script.
Yeah.
Then you've come up with what you believe it says, mentioning the first couple letters, and then this laudanum, and then you have 5. So how do we get from that inscription to perhaps somehow it connects to the Bible? Because the laudanum that you're mentioning isn't mentioned in the biblical text itself.
Yes. This word does not occur in the Bible. So I began to investigate what can be.
Right.
And I go to the conclusion that is what Shechelet.
Shechelet.
Shechelet is the second component of the incense in the temple, according to Exodus 34. Yes, and I am not the first person to
Make this
to
connection.
make the connection between Ladan. Rabbis from the Middle Ages say that, yes, and I
So-
am convinced that this is the Shechelet.
So laudanum, what is that?
What in Hebrew is Shechelet?
You're right.
In
But what is
South
it? What
Arabian
is it
is
in
Ladan.
South Arabian? What is it? What is it? A plant? Is it a what? What does that describe?
It's a plant. Yes.
Okay, it's a plant, and you're saying that while that word is not mentioned in the Bible, we do have this shechelet that is mentioned in the Bible, that people previous to you have connected.
Yes.
Ancient scholars have connected to laudanum.
Yes.
So they're one and the same.
Yes.
So this is interesting that we have, as you're saying, this one of these items that's mentioned in the creation of the incense or perfume in the temple.
Well, we want to stress that this inscription was found 250 meters
Right,
from where we believe there was the first temple.
right, right. So you have something coming from Arabia, or at least an Arabian style text that's mentioning an element in the temple service. What is the biblical connection that you write about in your paper between South Arabia, the Bible, and this time period as well? We haven't talked necessarily about the dating of this,
Yeah.
so maybe that can be brought into it.
Well, we know that the South Arabian, especially Sheva, yes, Sheva,
Sheba, as we would say in
Sheba,
English.
it was the superpower of elements of perfumes and incense, not only for Israel but also for all the area, and it states as I write in my article, 2 of the prophets say that the incense came from Sheva, from Shiva.
Okay. So you've got, maybe you can talk about the dating of the inscription itself. We haven't talked about that. When is the
In my opinion, it's that the 10th century.
10th century BC?
Not everybody agree with me. People say, there are people on the opinion that this vessel, we have to date it to the 9th century.
Would there be anything that would help us push it to the 10th century, keep it in the 10th century, relating to when this script was being used in South Arabia? Or?
The excavator, Dr. Mazar, dated it to the 10th century. Yes?
Yep.
The archaeological layer, he dated it to the 10th century. There are another archaeologist, Dr. What's the name?
Ariel Vinderboom?
Yes.
Okay.
Ariel Wilder, agree with her. But there are other archaeologists that say no, it's not 10th century. This vessel did not exist in the 10th century, but in the 9th century.
Okay. So there's a little bit of debate over that, but the
Yes.
original excavator does believe that it became from the 10th century.
Yeah.
And that is, that's separate to the inscription itself. That's based on the archaeological dating of it. So maybe we can connect it to the biblical narrative now. What was happening in the 10th century? What was the relationship, according to the Bible, between South Arabia, where Sheba was the dominant power, and Jerusalem?
Shiva was the dominant. Today we know there is a consensus that Shiva was the dominant power in the 10th century in South Arabia
Okay.
until the 5th century BCE.
Okay.
So the connection is of course the story about the visit of the Queen of Sheba. There is a terrible debate about the historicity
Right.
of the story. This inscription doesn't prove the visit of the Queen. The Queen here.
She's not written on there.
Yeah, the name of the Queen is not here
Right.
now, but it proved the connection.
Right.
It proved the connection between the kingdom of Solomon and the kingdom of Sheba.
And there was trade going between
In the trade, yes.
those, and
In the trade between them.
so we have found evidence elsewhere in the city of David of trade between South Arabia and Jerusalem, but that's mainly a bit later than this period. Correct?
Yes, later.
And
Yes.
so this is pushing it back to the 10th century.
Yes, Igal Shiloh in the city of David found 3 small inscriptions dated later, the 7th century.
And they were in the same style script, South Arabian
Yeah.
script as well.
Yeah.
So there is another interesting connection you make in your paper to a different king, biblical king, about 150 years after King Solomon, King Hezekiah. During his reign, he mentions something that is stored in this area as well.
Yes, yes. He showed the storage to a delegation from Babylonia.
Okay.
Yes, in this area.
And this area, he's
Yeah.
showing storerooms. And what is one of the elements?
In the story, that there were incense and perfumes.
Which
So from this text, we know that there was the kings used to put all these materials in the royal stores.
And here we are in the royal part of Jerusalem, the royal quarter of
Yes.
Jerusalem, where we find,
In the Ophel.
in the Ophel.
Yes, in the Ophel, of course.
So what would you say, just looking at this, were you surprised? You found South Arabian, you probably thought it was that script first, and then you read it, and was this a surprise to you to find a connection to perfume and one of the elements used in the
Of the incense.
the incense? Was that a
It's
surprise?
a big surprise for me.
It was a
Yeah.
big surprise. So you didn't kind of look at it and be like, hey, that's South Arabian, it says
No.
incense. It was like, let's look at this again. And this was something you just came to
No.
after studying it. closely.
I was working with a South Arabian script the last year
Okay.
with other inscriptions. And in some moment, I remembered that the letters that we was working with them is the letters of that inscription that
Kind of connected,
yes.
connected back for you. So what would you say, big picture, in terms of the history of Jerusalem, how does this impact the larger discussion about Jerusalem's
the strong
centrality?
connection between the kingdom of Solomon and the kingdom of Sheba.
Which is something that
Yes.
obviously that the Bible records
Yes.
quite well. Well, thank you for your time with us. I would like to mention that soon you're going to have your own channel or a series
channel.
of channels on YouTube.
3 channels, yes,
And-
in 3 languages, in Hebrew, English, and Spanish.
So we'll certainly, as soon as that comes out, let people know about that. But for now, thank you very much for your work going back on this
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much for watching to the end of today's episode of Let the Stone Speak. Thank you very much also to Dr. Weinstaub for taking his time to explain to us this very important inscription. Of course, if you want to read up more on this, you can definitely go below this video and look at the show notes of today's program. We have an article linked there. It's entitled Temple Incense from the Queen of Sheba, Reanalysis of the Ophel-Pithos Inscription by Christopher Eames. And inside that, we'll link also to for Dr. Weinstaub's own paper, that is journal paper, that is available for free for you as well online. So please do go and click on those links to get more details of this. I do also want to alert you to our magazine. It goes by the same name as the podcast, Let the Stone Speak. This is a magazine on biblical history and biblical archaeology. Comes out 6 times per year. It's available to you for free wherever you are in the world. We'll gladly sign you up for a free subscription. And this is something that we'll never, ever charge you for, so you don't have to worry about any hidden costs. There will never be any. So if you want to sign up for that magazine, you can simply go to our website, armstronginstitute.org, and scroll down to where you'll find the magazine and sign up there. You can also read the PDF of the latest edition and the previous back issues there on the website as well. Or if you would want to just write an email, you can do that by writing to letters@armstronginstitute.org and just request the magazine subscription and put your name and address, and we'll make sure you get a copy. Thank you very much for joining us again today, and we'll see you next time.